All right, so we already talked about this one, but this is Pedro, right? And he's helping prepare for emergencies. Friends, how do you prepare for the day? How do you get ready for the day? You can shout it out. What do you do?
Get dressed.
That's perfect. You get dressed. That's right, friends. Thank you. You get dressed. You brush your teeth. You put your shoes on, right? That's how you get prepared for the day, right? And you can also prepare for things that might never happen, right? But you want to be prepared in case it does happen, right? Because it might be an emergency. Pedro was playing outside with his friends, Martin and Matthew, when it began to rain. They went inside and found Martin and Matthew's parents looking at a map. Are we going on a trip? Asked Martin. We are making plans in case we have to leave our home because of a flood, his dad replied. What's a flood? Asked Pedro. A flood happens when a lot of water flows onto land that is normally dry, replied Martin's mom. Flooding can happen when there's a lot of rain or a creek or river overflow. How do I know when there will be a flood? Asked Pedro. You'll hear about a flood watch. A flood watch means that a flood might happen, so we need to be prepared. You'll hear the message on the radio, TV, or by a cell phone alert from a grown-up, said Matthew, right? Your grown-up might get an alert on their phone. We might hear it on the radio. A flood watch means there might be a flood, so you need to be prepared. What should I do when there's a flood watch? Asked Pedro. You should be prepared in case a flood comes, replied Martin's mom. We are checking the emergency kit in the car, so we'll have extra supplies if we need to leave. We will be sure to bring some extra clothes, blankets, diapers for Leonora, water, food, and some extra money, right? They have an emergency kit ready to go because there's a flood watch. Can I bring my ball? Asked Pedro. Yes, you should bring some things you can play with, like your favorite book, game, or toy. That's where a flood might be a little different because a flood, there might be a flood warning, right? So that gives you some time to pack a few of your favorite toys in case you have to leave home, right? But with a fire, usually you don't get a fire warning, right? And so you should not stop and get toys, right? But here, if there's just a warning, yes, you should pack up some of your favorite toys. If there is a flood, you might need to take action and evacuate. Evacuate means to go to a safer place. With floods, a safer place usually means high ground, right? That might mean up a hill, right? To a different city. You don't know, right? How will I know if I need to evacuate? Asked Pedro. You will know because there will be a flood warning. A flood warning means a flooding is happening in your area, okay? A flood watch means there might be a flood. A flood warning means there is flooding, so you should take action. A safe place could be a higher floor if you're in a tall building. If you live in an apartment, could be the very tippy-top floor, right? Or somewhere nearby that you can easily get to that's on higher ground, Matthew said. Sometimes a different kind of flood called a flash flood can happen without warning, and you have to act very quickly, said Matthew. That's why it's important to be prepared. So flash floods, they usually don't have warnings. They might have a flash flood warning, right? But it's less likely than a normal flood, and it could happen very quickly. That's why it's important to always be prepared. Our home is in an area that floods easily, so we have to evacuate. We want to find many different ways out of our neighborhood to get to higher ground where we will be safer, said Martin. So if you and your grown-up, you look at a map, right? You want to plan lots of different ways to get out because one of them might be flooded, right? And so you want to have a backup plan. Yeah? Why can't we just get out the way we usually do? Asked Pedro. Streets may be filled with water and it's never safe to drive into. You cannot drive into flood water, friends. That's why you have to have a backup plan. Whenever you see flood water, turn around, don't drown. Friends, I do not, Pedro's turning around. I do not care how good of a swimmer you are. It is never safe to get into flood water, okay? It's not the same as a swimming pool. It's moving very quickly. There's lots of different debris in it. Okay, there might be a stick. There might be squirrels. There might be a tire or a car, right? It's not safe. Whenever you're in a car or walking, it's always safer to stay away from the water. Well, I'm a good swimmer, said Pedro. I could swim across. No way, said Martin. Playing or swimming in floodwater can make you sick. The water can be full of unsafe things that you cannot see. It's better to stay far away. You never know what's been washed into that floodwater. There could be all kinds of germs, right? All kinds of things that could make you sick. After a flood, you can get updates from the local radio, TV, a cell phone, or a grown-up until you know it's safe to return home. Don't return home unless it's safe, right? Until they say that it's safe to return home. Also, if your toys or clothes get wet in a flood, it's important to let an adult inspect them before you try to touch them, Martin's mom added. Wow, there is so much to learn about flood safety, Pedro said. Thank you for teaching me. Right, we talked about those yucky germs that might be in the water. If something accidentally gets wet, we might want to wash it, right? So you want to make sure you have an adult inspect it. A few weeks later, Pedro was sitting at home and noticed it was raining a lot. He turned on the TV and saw that there was a flood watch. A flood watch means we need to be prepared, right? I know what to do, said Pedro. I'm so glad I'm already prepared. Pedro found his emergency kit and added some fresh snacks and drinking water. Using his map of the city, Pedro reviewed the routes he had planned to get to higher ground. Flood watch canceled. See, friends, every time there's a flood watch, that doesn't mean there's going to be a flood, right? So we just need to be prepared and be listening, right, to our grown-up or to the TV, right? And it'll tell us whether or not we need to evacuate, which means then we have to leave and get to higher ground. Later that day, the news announcer said that the flood watch had been canceled. Phew, I didn't have to evacuate this time, but I'm so glad I learned how to be prepared, just in case, said Pedro. And again, Pedro, preparing for emergencies can be very scary, huh? And so when we get worried about it, about an emergency or about a test at school or about anything, we can take those big, deep breaths in through our nose and out through our mouths, huh? We do that about 5 times. That's Pedro's rule of thumb, huh? Should we try it? Should we try it 5 times, friends? Everyone just tell me whether they feel calmer. Ready? Good job. Two more. And last one. Good job, friends. Thank you so much for having me here today.